New York on January 28, 2001, was thick with the anticipation of Super Bowl 35, a day of communal gathering, comfort food, and football. But for 18-year-old Jill-Lyn Euto, a young woman fiercely carving out her own independent life, that Sunday would become a chilling, permanent silence, a day that would forever mark the beginning of a cold case that tore her family apart and left a community haunted by the question of who could commit such an intimate, brutal act. The vibrant energy of a national holiday masked a sinister reality unfolding in a quiet sixth-floor apartment, where a killer was about to extinguish a bright, promising life, leaving behind a scene of violence and a mystery that has endured for over 2 decades. Before we delve into the tragic details of this case, please take a moment to comment, like, share, and subscribe to the Calendar of Crimes so you don't miss future episodes. Your support helps us continue to bring these important stories to light and advocate for justice. Jill-Lyn Euto was, by all accounts, a force of nature. Born in 1982, she possessed a drive and independence that belied her young age. She was not one to follow the conventional path. She dropped out of high school in the 9th grade, not out of apathy, but out of a burning desire to start her life on her own terms. She immediately went on to earn her GED, a testament to her intelligence and determination. From that point on, she was constantly working, focused on earning enough money to achieve true self-sufficiency. Her sister, Jenna Euto, described her as fiercely independent, a young woman who was determined to make her own way in the world. Despite her focus on work, Jill-Lyn was also deeply compassionate, dreaming of a future in the medical field because, as Jenna recalled, she was just really out to help anybody. This combination of strength and kindness made her a beloved figure to her family and friends. In 2001, Jill-Lyn was working at the Aeropostale store in the Shoppingtown Mall in Syracuse. She had recently achieved a major milestone, securing her very own studio apartment on James Street. It was a 6th-floor unit. She adored it. It represented her hard-won independence, a private sanctuary where she could finally be the master of her own life. She was diligent about paying her rent and managing her finances, proving to everyone, and perhaps most importantly to herself, that she could do it. Her life was on an upward trajectory, filled with the promise of a future she was actively building. The day of the Super Bowl, January 28, 2001, was supposed to be a day of family. Jill-Lyn was planning to join her mother, Joanne Browning, and her sister, Jenna, at their home to watch the game. The family, despite being lifelong Denver Broncos fans, had decided to root for the Baltimore Ravens that year, mostly out of a shared dislike for any New York team. More importantly, Joanne was planning to make Super Bowl tacos, Jill-Lyn's absolute favorite meal. Around 11 a.m. that Sunday morning, Jill-Lyn called her mother's house. Jenna answered the phone. Jill-Lyn wanted to speak to Joanne, but Jenna told her their mother was busy, as they were just heading out to the grocery store to pick up the taco ingredients. Jenna, then 17, told her sister they would call her back. That brief, seemingly insignificant moment would become a source of profound, lifelong regret for Jenna. It was the last time anyone in the family would ever speak to Jill-Lyn Euto. Jenna and Joanne returned from the store around noon, and Jenna immediately began calling Jill-Lyn's apartment. She called repeatedly, but there was no answer. At first, Jenna was simply annoyed. She left messages, some of them expressing frustration, wondering why her sister was bailing on their plans. The longer she didn't answer, the more I would call. And then after a while, I started getting mad and being like, where are you? This is ridiculous. Jenna later recounted. The Super Bowl started. The family watched the game, ate the tacos, and saw the star-studded halftime show featuring Aerosmith and *NSYNC. They kept expecting Jill-Lyn to walk through the door, but she never did. Joanne, trying to keep the peace, suggested Jill-Lyn had probably just changed her plans and would call in the morning. They went to bed that night with a sense of mild disappointment, unaware of the horror that had already taken place. The next morning, Monday, January 29, 2001, the mild disappointment turned to cold dread. The phone rang, and it was Joanne calling home from work. Jill-Lyn had not shown up for her shift at Aeropostale. Joanne had tried calling her daughter's apartment repeatedly, but still, no answer. This was completely out of character for the fiercely responsible Jill-Lyn. Panic set in. Joanne rushed home, picked up Jenna, and the two drove to Jill-Lyn's apartment on James Street. They knocked on the door, but again, only silence answered. Joanne, with a mother's intuition screaming at her, used her key and pushed the door open. What happened next is seared into Jenna's memory as a moment of pure, visceral terror. Jenna heard a sound escape her mother, a sound she couldn't even explain, before Joanne simply collapsed. Joanne Browning had found her daughter Jill-Lyn murdered. Jenna instinctively tried to rush past her mother into the apartment, but Joanne, despite her collapse, became an immovable wall, physically blocking her younger daughter from seeing the horrific scene. In a final desperate act of maternal protection, Joanne shielded Jenna from the sight of her dead sister. Jenna ran out, banging on neighbors' doors for help, while her hysterical mother managed to call 911 on her cell phone. Syracuse police and emergency services arrived quickly. Dr. Mary Jill-Lyn, the chief medical examiner of Onondaga County at the time, was called to the scene. Jill-Lyn's body was found in the main living area of her studio apartment. The scene was one of shocking violence. Dr. Jill-Lyn noted that Jill-Lyn had suffered multiple stab wounds to her neck, chest, and back. The murder weapon was recovered at the scene, and it was a devastating detail. It was one of Jill-Lyn's own kitchen knives. The medical examiner's initial findings pointed to a chilling conclusion. There was no sign of forced entry into the apartment. This crucial detail suggested that Jill-Lyn had known her killer and had willingly let them into her private, secure space. Dr. Jill-Lyn theorized that the killer was likely someone Jill-Lyn knew, noting that stabbing is a very intimate form of death. The time of death was estimated to be the day before Super Bowl Sunday, likely in the afternoon, which placed the murder squarely in the window of time when Jenna was leaving those frustrated voicemails. The investigation quickly stalled. Despite the intimate nature of the crime and the recovery of the weapon, police could not identify a suspect. Jill-Lyn's case was officially listed as a cold case with unknown under the suspect category on the Syracuse Police Department's website. The initial hope that the case would be solved quickly faded. The aftermath of Jill-Lyn's murder was a second tragedy for her family, particularly her mother, Joanne. Jenna later said, "My mom died that day too. What she saw killed her." Joanne Browning was unable to accept that her daughter's killer remained free. She became a tireless, relentless advocate for justice, dedicating the next 6 years of her life to keeping Jill-Lyn's name in the public eye. She stopped working, relying on disability, and spent every waking moment contacting journalists, making flyers, and speaking with detectives. She appeared on shows like Montel Williams and reached out to Unsolved Mysteries, doing everything in her power to ensure her daughter was not forgotten. Her entire existence revolved around the singular, consuming goal of finding Jill-Lyn's killer. In 2007, just 6 years after Jill-Lyn's murder, tragedy struck the family again. Joanne, trying to earn some extra money, took a landscaping job. During a shift, she fell from a flat roof, a fall of only about 12 feet, but she landed directly on the back of her head. The doctors confirmed her death was instantaneous. Jenna was left devastated, having lost her sister to a brutal murder and now her mother to a sudden cruel accident. The only solace Jenna could find was the thought that her mother was finally with Jill-Lyn, a piece that had eluded her in life. Today, nearly a quarter-century later, Jenna Euto is the sole voice fighting for her sister. The pain is still raw, compounded by a specific, haunting anguish, the memory of the angry voicemail she left on Super Bowl Sunday. Jill-Lyn's answering machine was the kind that played messages out loud as they were being recorded. Jenna is tormented by the possibility that her sister, in her final moments, may have heard her younger sister yelling at her, demanding to know where she was. "I pray to God like she didn't hear, like me yelling at her," Jenna confessed. "That haunts me." Jenna has admitted that her hope for a resolution has dwindled over the years. She doesn't believe the case can be solved as the way things are. Yet, a small sliver of hope remains. The possibility that the killer, or someone who knows the killer, will one day be moved to clear their conscience. The Syracuse Police Department's cold case unit continues to list the cases open, and they urge anyone with information to contact them. The details are clear. An 18-year-old girl, full of life and independence, was murdered in her own home by someone she trusted, and her mother died fighting for her. Jill-Lyn Euto deserves justice, and her family deserves peace. If you have any information about the murder of Jill-Lyn Euto, please contact the Syracuse Police Department's Criminal Investigations Division at 315-442-5222. Thanks for watching. Please comment, share, like, and subscribe for future episodes from the Calendar of Crime.